Hi everyone, comic book reviewer here. This time reviewing on Sonic the Hedgehog's Chaotix 30th anniversary. Now, as you know, Chaotix 30th anniversary is meant to be a one-shot story covering Team Chaotix, which is Charmy, Vector, and SPO storyline. And I do admit I do want to see a Team Chaotix TV show set in the Sonic movie universe, as I could see Ruby's voice actor for Steven Universe for Charmy, Will Thorpe for Vector the Crocodile, and Dante Basco for Espio. So let's get on with the story. It starts off how at the sort of museum, we see how Amy sort of presents Sonic with one of the totem poles, and Sonic's saying, last time I saw these things, they were spitting arrows at me. Never got a good look at them up close. And we even see how Sonic's amazed with Amy's knowledge, and of course, just as about Amy's thinking to herself, they end up meeting Vector, who shows up at the whole museum thing to talk about their first ever case and to mark the anniversary, and even tells his story in a more dark, gritty, noir storyline and how they got their first ever case, and ends up meeting a university professor's assistant known as Meg Rani. And of course, we see how we end up meeting the sort of dean and owner of the museum, saying, "These have been your morning announcements. The eyes of history are upon you. Make good choices. Voldus out." And of course, right away, we see how Voldus is a little unsure about Vector, Espio, and Charmy, and even is more critical of them, and doesn't really see them as sort of real detectives and that, and even calls out his assistant for making a bad decision here. But just as Vector's about to finish off the story, Sonic and Amy leave, and we see how they end up in the Japanese area of the museum, and talks about the ancient history of Japan. And I think much like how Japan had to stand up to its rulers, England also had the same against kings and tyrants, the same way I think America had to stand up for its independence, showing how our histories are almost the same. And Espio saying, "Actually, it's pronounced shuriken, Amy." And we do see how Amy acts on her emotions, but we even see how obviously Espio wants to tell his story as well. And of course, it's done in a more Japanesey sort of storyline, and Espio being annoyed with Vector and Charmy's sort of incompetence. We see how Espio goes to kind of patrol the museum, sees something wrong, and comes face to face with a mysterious thief, and they both duke it out, shuriken against blade, and we kind of see how Espio has to quickly use his ninja skills, and both of them duking it out. And we see how after saving a rare artifact, this made Espio realize something's not right here. But just as they make it to the whole Greek exposition, we see how Charmy shows up saying, "Whoa, you found me!" And of course, this is Amy now realizing she's not going to get anything done, until we kind of see how Vector wants Charmy to tell his story. But Sonic realizes, since Charmy's the third and final member of the team, if he tells his story, this can be all done. And we see how, because of Charmy being young and a little naive, he tells his story in the style of a kid's drawing you see on DeviantArt, saying, "Okay, so what had happened was..." And we see how, obviously, since this is Charmy, he's kind of making this more like a kid thing, saying, "What is the meaning of this? I am the middle of the morning announcement. How dare you? I am very old and mean and important. You are the one who dares." And we kind of see how it's even explained that the residents of a certain city, known as Cascade City, wouldn't give this rare artifact to anyone and its importance. but it also turns out that Thaddeus was kind of doing illegal things to get artifacts that didn't belong to him. And it's clear he says, who cares if my museum has a bunch of stolen stuff in it? And we see how he points out he's rich and important, he can do whatever he wants. And similar in the style of the whole Supermarket Mania episode from Garfield, all his words get revealed to all the students and people at the museum, and obviously Thaddeus realizes Charmy exposed him, and then saying, and then he said a bunch of bad words that Vector says I can't repeat. And obviously, just about to sort of tell the next part of the story, Amy has that death glare like Katara in Avatar: Last Airbender, saying, no more stories. And this is Vector realizing that he's done what he needs to do. And of course, turns out the mysterious thief looks on, and we see how Thaddeus tries to kind of calm the situation, saying, no, everyone, no need to resort to violence, just remain calm, there's a perfectly logical explanation for this, I swear. Try stealing this, you twat. And of course, ends up getting pummeled, and turns out his assistant was actually a master thief, and we see how Vector obviously gives her credit in basically keeping them on their toes, but as a little thank you, decides to give her back the calling card, and this is where even she's impressed that Team Chaotix were able to do something that no one could, able to bust her. And it becomes clear that obviously this is her showing up as to the 30th anniversary as a little remembrance, and the story ending with everyone looking in on the museum. And this is the story. So, my thoughts on the whole Chaotix 30th anniversary is an okay story. It's there to give Team Chaotix their spotlight, doing something with a whole premise of their first ever case, and something that really just shows you the difference between Team Chaotix. Charmy is the kid character. Vector is the guy who obviously has to be this detective image. Espio's the guy who's a bit more sterner and a bit more of the more expert guy. So I think it's not the best story, not the greatest, but it still deserves thumbs in the middle. Definitely alright, definitely okay, despite just being there to be a typical one-shot storyline. So, comic book reviewer here, signing out.